everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Holly Gibson, Senior Product Specialist here at UDA Technologies.
Hi everyone, this is Jordan Davis, also Senior Product Specialist here at UDA Technologies, and we are beyond excited to talk with you all today about our Lunch and Learn topic, increasing sales with leads and opportunity tracking in ConstructionOnline.
Yeah, so this is such a great topic and something that we are really excited to show you guys today. So we'll be learning really how to work with the sales management tools in ConstructionOnline. So some of the topics that we're going to cover will be things like, first, just how to get your lead pipeline set up, some of the things that you're able to customize in terms of your lead stages and really building out the process that works for your company. We'll talk about how to best get leads into the system, whether your process would involve maybe a phone call coming in and needing to enter that information over the phone, and even ways that you can tie our sales management tools in with your website to eliminate some of that data entry. We'll talk about how to keep things moving with things like lead events and lead calendar, reminders for those things. And then as you progress with those leads, how opportunities are going to work, how that fits into the overall lead process, and then how to circle back around and really get some outstanding reports out of the data so that you can use your sales information to better figure out maybe where to invest marketing dollars, or which sales reps are performing the best, or which types of jobs are really going to be a better fit for you and your company. So there's a lot that you can get out of the sales management tool. So we're really excited to dive into that.
Yeah, and Holly, I don't know if you're getting the sense, but I've been speaking with a lot of clients around the country and really around the world this week. Things have been maybe not tense, but definitely hectic. A lot of people have shifted to working remotely. People have shifted to internal office work in some areas of the U.S. For instance, they've actually shut down work, and really now is the time to start honing in and finding out, what does your sales process look like? How are you actually going to prepare for and continue to push business forward as we move into the second quarter and beyond in 2020? So really, if you're looking or scrambling and thinking, well, what do we do right now? Right now is the time to start pushing your pipeline and really working with your team to continue to identify new leads, new opportunities, and to really set your business up to take advantage of what's going to happen in a couple of months when things start to open back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that I've seen the same thing, Jordan, as so many people are maybe working remotely, or their day-to-day has shifted just in terms of what types of work can get done. I think the other thing that there's a real opportunity for, especially with something like lead and opportunity tracking, is, to use that as an opportunity to be hopefully in better touch with your clients, keep them up to date on what you're doing and where you stand with things as a company. Make sure everybody's on the same page about what those next steps moving forward are going to be. So it's really a way to be able to provide, some outstanding customer service to those potential clients that you might be working with, or people that you work with regularly and have, potential or pending jobs going for. Now, before we get started, or before we dive in, as always, if you guys are new to webinars or workshops here at UDA, or if this is your first one, we do have our colleague Sydney Dorsey standing by and available to answer questions. Jordan, talk a little bit about what's the best way for people to get their questions over to us.
Sure. So if you take a look at the GoToWebinar panel, which you all should have open since you're here with us today, you'll see a space for questions. It's titled Questions inside of the panel. If you open up that section of the panel, you'll see a space where you can actually submit questions to us. Now, interestingly, Holly, I've seen some people submit helpful tips or advice or share feedback with us as we work through the webinar as well, which is great. I think my favorite was when someone shared kind of an internal trick that they used a certain feature for a couple months ago. It still stands out in my mind. So if you all would take a look at the questions panel, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're hoping to learn about today from the sales management tools and ConstructionOnline. Sydney will be answering questions as we go along, and also highlighting or flagging a few questions for Holly and I to answer as we work through the webinar today. Really, we would love to find out what we can do to best tailor this webinar for you.
So with that, we'll go ahead and jump in and get started on building our lead pipeline here. Now, again, for those of you that are, maybe a little bit newer to UDA Technologies, if you've just started up with ConstructionOnline, or if you're, not as familiar about what we do, of course, ConstructionOnline is our award-winning online project management platform. So that's, serving over 750,000 of you guys all over the world, with a core goal really to help you better manage your projects and better manage your business. And so, that's really what we're known for is being able to provide outstanding estimating and scheduling and project management tools. And so with that, sometimes clients that I work with who are just getting started are really pleasantly surprised to find that there's an entire CRM system and sales management tool already built into ConstructionOnline. They'll say, well, Holly, is this is this included? Do I get this with ConstructionOnline? I didn't even know that was available. So, if it's something that you came in and maybe have just gotten started on using other things, just know that this is available and there's an outstanding system here. Now, when we look at setup or where you're going to find it, of course, you'll notice that we have just selected our lead tracking module from our sales management tool. So you'll really want to look in that panel over on the left-hand side. Go ahead and find that sales management section and then just click right into lead tracking, and that's where we're really going to begin our setup here.
Yeah, now before we dive in, Holly, this question comes up for me all the time. People ask, well, what is the difference between lead tracking and opportunity tracking? Or what's the difference between a lead and an opportunity? I feel like before we jump in today, we have to address this because it comes up so often.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like we've already gotten a couple of questions about kind of the workflow, lead to opportunity to project, or what's the difference between leads and opportunities. So there's really two ways to think about this as you're getting started with that sales management modules. The first one is kind of the actual difference between what they are. So leads are people. So those are contacts, those are individual people normally that you're tracking, or maybe a company that you might do business with, whereas opportunities are potential projects. Now, you could use actually either one of these separate or independent of each other. You don't have to use both of them, and depending on your business model or the type of work that you do, you can definitely perhaps just use opportunities as a place to set up potential projects, or maybe only use lead tracking, and maybe you don't have a need to gather as much information before you close that lead. So that's certainly an option, but they are designed to be used together. And so your normal workflow would be, leads are people, and so we're managing those, and they're usually going to be that larger group of people that maybe are calling the office or filling out information on your website, or getting those in. So you can see that I've got 1,200 leads here that I'm managing, and I would expect that number to be growing almost on a daily basis, really. Mm-hmm. Now, when we're ready, we may want to create an opportunity, which is a job or a potential job or project for that lead. And so that's really going to be your workflow. As you have leads, opportunities would be potential projects and are usually going to be associated with a lead in your pipeline. And that's where you would start to really build not just the person's contact information, but the potential job itself, scope of work. Go ahead and build an estimate and a proposal for that. And then those opportunities can then just be converted directly into a project. So it's a really nice sequential workflow if you are taking advantage of all of those tools.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be talking today with that workflow process in mind. It's the most efficient that I've found in the system. It really takes advantage of both sides of the sales management tool set. And it really gives you a lot of great information, not just for yourself as, say, a company owner or company administrator, but also your sales team as well, to find out who are we working with, who's the right person to contact for this project, and then later on, what are we doing? What's the scope here? It gives you a really natural and easy place to store files and the estimate, potential proposals for the potential project, and everything fits together nicely. So as we're working through things today, keep in mind, or just remember, that the lead tracking section is really for tracking the person aspect. This could be a point of contact at a company, like you mentioned, Holly, or it could just be the person, right, depending on the type of work that you do. And the opportunity is going to end up being your potential project. Mm-hmm.
So now that we've talked a little bit about the big picture, let's go back to the beginning and look at, okay, so then where do I start? So if you haven't started using these tools yet, or maybe are wanting to just kind of get a refresher on some of the basics, the first thing we'd want to do is look at really how to set up our pipeline to match our sales process. So that's really what we're going to be seeing here with these lead stages. So you'll notice mine, for example, my first lead stage is just a new lead. My second stage here is first phone call. My second stage in the pipeline, or third, I guess, is going to be my sales appointment. Next, I would have a site consult. Next, I would expect to give them a proposal. And then lastly, contract awarded. This is when I've actually won the job. So you can see as I'm clicking through the stages on my dashboard here, you can notice my dashboard also beginning to filter to show me how many leads I have in that section, what the filtered value is going to be. So I've got some nice information that I'm able to view there just as we're clicking through. Now, when you first get started with ConstructionOnline, of course, there'll be some stages built in for you to use, but to really customize and set up. So, we really want to think about what is our normal sales process like internally. You receive a new lead, think about step by step what would need to happen next and set those stages up. So here you're just going to go ahead and select the gear for your customization options on this dashboard. So this option is located here, and then it's also going to be located within your action menu as well if you want to just do some setup there. So we'll come in and first be able to set up our stages. So this is where you would again define that sequence of events that needs to happen. So you can think about stages as always being typically a time-based thing. So we want to go in order what needs to happen first, second, third, and so forth in terms of your sales process.
Yeah, speaking of sales processes, I've worked with a lot of different types of companies in the past, let's say year and a half now. So I feel like I've seen every pipeline stage that you could possibly imagine for certain types of companies. And what I found is really when I start working with sales teams, some are very process oriented and they have clearly defined stages. A lot of other companies are not. But as we start to work through and really sit down and build out the pipeline, a process does emerge. And so what I've learned over time is every company that is client facing has some type of process, whether it's defined or not. And it makes a lot more sense to sit down and define and control your own sales process than to let your sales reps or yourself or just your schedule dictate what happens, right? Mm-hmm. You really are doing yourself and your business a disservice if you're not calculating or building out a true internal sales process and adjusting it as you learn from the leads that you work with as well. Now, I think that the approach, Holly, you were mentioning, to really just start building out and thinking through the process makes a lot of sense. Something that I've been recommending recently is actually thinking about the lead tracking process as part of a two-phase process here. Because we have the lead tracking tools that are designed for information gathering for the person you're working with, and then we translate that information into the opportunity, which has its own pipeline later on, I've actually recommended adjusting the lead stages to end in the stage of opening an opportunity. This gives you and your sales team visibility on the leads where you just don't have enough information to open a potential project or an opportunity just yet. It lets you find out why that is. Maybe you don't know their budget or you don't know if they're worth the time to put an estimate together for yet. Whatever it might be, right? These stages are going to serve as checkpoints for you to move towards opening an opportunity inside of the platform. So the way that we've been discussing, or the way I've recommended setting up the stages to this point would be whatever you want to put beforehand is fine, but we really reached the point where we're going to open an opportunity. So the last stage will usually say something like open opportunity, where we'll start to build out the estimate and later on generate the proposal. So I actually recommend stripping out things like the proposal from the pipeline in this stage because, well, we'll get to that, right? This first phase is all about qualifying the lead, making sure that they're worth our time, and really making sure they're worth our effort to move forward into the next few stages.
Now, you'll notice as I've made a couple of changes based on Jordan's recommendations here that, if you do decide to make some changes, you'll notice that those are applied instantly. So you can really choose what you're going to display or show on your dashboard, what's going to be available in those drop down menus. This is really where you're customizing, that process. So you guys really do have a lot of flexibility to customize those. It really couldn't be easier. Once you're in this menu, you really just type in what you want it to say. You can choose what symbol you want to represent that particular stage, save your changes, and that's going to be immediately reflected. Now, a couple of the other things that you can go ahead and set up during this time would be to just set up your lead sources and types. So these are usually things that are also really nice to be able to track when we're looking at the health of our lead pipeline and then our performance as a sales team. There are a couple of things that we want to know. The first one is you do want to know how many leads do you have overall, and you want to be able to see how many are in each stage, what they're worth, what's the projected dollar amount or potential dollar amount for those leads. So a lot of times we're gathering some of that preliminary information. It's also really nice to be able to get a breakdown of course, how those performance vary by sales rep. So if you do have multiple sales reps, that's automatically going to be populated for you based on your user. So you don't have to do any special setup there. But you would also most likely want to be tracking lead sources. So to be able to track where the leads are coming from, this can really help at the end of the year when you're looking at putting together some reports and developing budgets. And you want to know, well, how much should we spend on those local home shows, or how much should we invest in advertising, or should we do another mailer campaign where you maybe mail out something to people in a certain neighborhood. There's all sorts of ways that you can market your business, and so it's really nice to know where those leads are coming from so you really know where to invest. And then the other thing that you can do is track different lead types. And so this is going to be especially useful for those of you that do different types of jobs, but it doesn't always just have to be, type really can represent almost anything. I work with clients who have several different divisions to their company, and so sometimes lead types are really representative of that. I work with people on the residential side. Maybe you guys are doing both new construction and and perhaps remodels, or on the commercial side, same thing. Maybe you're doing some lighter commercial office spaces. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're doing some that are like retail space versus quick service restaurants versus, other types of build outs, or, so it really can apply to just about anything, which is why we give you, again, that flexibility to just change this. So if we wanted to, call this, we won't change the ones that we've already got. Pools and decks. Maybe if we wanted to add a couple of additional types in here to represent retail or quick service dining or something like that. It really, you can, again, just customize this. Now, the point of customizing and setting this up is not only to give you the information now, but it does tie into some of the things that we'll touch on later on when we start to look at some of the reporting that you can do and kind of how you can get a bigger picture for what's performing really well for your company. So it's super easy to set up and customize, but you can actually get a lot of payback. Now, our next step after we get everything, kind of set up, and again, like I would take Jordan's advice here, that can be fluid. Don't worry about it being absolutely perfect at first. Just take a couple of minutes to customize it as best you can, and you can always come back and do that fine tuning or enhancing later on if you find things that you want to add or change. And then really our next step is going to be to start pulling some leads into the system. So there are a few ways that we can accomplish that.
Yeah, the first is probably the most apparent. It's the really large Add New Lead button, which is going to be just above the table of leads here. So when we select this button, it's going to open up a new lead wizard or stepper. This is going to give us kind of guide us through the process of adding a new lead into the system without overwhelming you with a ton of fields all at once. Now, the first information here is really just general contact information. What's really great about this page is that you really don't need a lot of information to start when you're putting together a new lead into the system. We can see there's a lot of different contact categorization type fields available here, but you might not know all of this just yet. You might just know maybe their name and their email address. They might not even tell you what their street address is yet because they sent you an email inquiry or something like that into the platform. But the advantage of this is that you're really adding a new record to your system that your team or you are going to be building out as you work through the information gathering process to find out, well, is this person really someone that we want to partner with or work with from a business standpoint, right? Now, we're filling in a few fields here just to show you what a really robust lead would look like. But I will say, if you're in the heat of the moment and you have a new potential lead calling in, you're going to want to open this page and begin entering the information quickly so you can get to the next step, which is really filling out the lead details. Now, this is specific information relevant to this lead. Things like, of course, where, how they heard about your company and really what they want, right? This details or notes section is a really great scratch pad to start entering in what this person is looking for, right? So a lot of the information that we could fill out later, like the lead type or the lead status or what they're really wanting, we can always come back in and fill that information in. But the most important thing is if you have an interested lead contacting you, whether that's through an email or a phone call, whatever it might be, you want to make sure you get that information down. Because if you don't, it's going to disappear into the air somewhere because you're busy. Everyone's very busy. And you'll forget about it. And you won't come back. You won't fill the information in. This is going to be your friend when you're trying to find out the next step to really closing this person and really winning their business. Or, whether that's a person at a company really winning a company's business or winning an individual's business. Like this page here is going to be kind of your goal to get to if you're on the phone with a new lead.
Yeah, that's right. That really the goal here, and again, it goes back to what that process and volume sort of looks like at your business. But when that lead comes in, you want to just be able to. You can see as we've gone through, it's really super easy to just fill out their general information. I know for many of you guys, if you have an office team or a reception team who really very often gets lead information and then passes that to a sales rep. They're going to be filling out the form and then assigning that. In some cases, the sales rep or the owner may go ahead and speak with the lead directly. So it's really flexible enough to work in all of those different scenarios. Now, let's just say that I'm in reception for my company here. So I've answered the phone. I've got this new inquiry and I've filled this out for my new lead. On the lead details, once we get here, some of this will default for you. So the lead status is always going to default to open. The other options here would be to mark the lead as closed, lost, or won. So that's usually going to be our last step when we're closing out a lead, or as inactive if it's not really won or lost, but we need to denote it as an inactive lead. Your lead stage is going to default again to that first option. So I think that's fine. This is a brand new lead. And maybe my next step, and the great thing about this pipeline and stages is that does help you see that our next step should be to go ahead and have that first phone call maybe with a sales rep to do a little further qualifying or something like that. Lead source in this case is going to be a referral. So maybe Sarah let me know when she called in that she's been referred by someone else. And it's great when you're filling out this form because very often you might not always ask or train your team to ask those questions, but it's such valuable information that when you have a system in place, you can really make sure that, okay, for this, we always want to ask, well, how did you hear about us? And that way they're able to make a great selection. You can get some really great information there. Looks like Sarah has a company where we would be doing a new quick service dining establishment for her. I'm going to go ahead and assign a sales rep here. Now, any of this can be left blank, so we're just kind of looking at what we're doing. If I assign the sales rep, then that means that Natalie is going to know. She'll get a notification that she's been assigned a new lead. So that really just helps facilitate that communication at my company. So I could put in a couple of notes here. Sarah is opening So let's say she already has designs or something like that. So any little notes that you want to enter about the lead can be added here. And then our next step would be to go ahead and set up a lead event. So we could here go ahead and say maybe we need to set up that phone call for tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we'll go ahead and get that set. Again, make sure that's assigned out to our sales rep so that they'll receive that notification. and then move on to associating any opportunities or attachments or files that we want to add. Right now, we really don't need to do any of that, so we'll go ahead and save our brand new lead. We'll go to Sarah here, and then now as we start to kind of progress through, we would have a place to now add additional notes, additional attachments, documents, phone calls that were made, that sort of thing.
And we'll cover some of these options in a few moments here. But this is a really great way to start taking information that would typically land on a scrap of paper floating around somewhere in somebody's notebook and putting it into a place where, one, it can't be lost, and two, other people can help and assist in updating and really winning the business. I think this is a huge point to make, that if people are used to kind of keeping their own little notes in their own little spaces, that this is going to be a little different at first, but the advantages are absolutely going to outweigh kind of the downsides of tracking lead information on scraps of paper.
Yeah, now a couple of other options that we do want to talk about in terms of getting the leads in. First, I'll just touch on that, if you're getting started with this for the first time and you do have leads on maybe like an Excel sheet that you've been tracking, you can absolutely import those into ConstructionOnline. So if you've got your leads in any sort of Excel or CSV format, those can be imported for you. So that's always going to be an option. And then we also offer a lead capture tool, and this allows you to turn on for your ConstructionOnline public profile, as well as place on your own company website a form that potential customers can fill out. It's really going to be that contact us form that you would normally have on your website. Someone can come in, fill out the form, and when that happens, it's going to automatically create the lead for you in ConstructionOnline. And then also, depending on your settings here, send an email and or text message to whoever at your company you've chosen to receive those notifications. So in this case, I've got several of my team members who are always going to be alerted as soon as we receive a new lead from our website. So again, if we're looking to really facilitate that fast communication, excellent service for our potential clients, this is a great way to do it. And to get that on your website, really you can copy the code snippet that you would need or send that directly to your web developer. They'll be able to get that onto your website, and really that's it.
Yeah, from that point, you probably want to replace your contact form on your website with this form because, well, then you would have duplicate contact us forms if you didn't. But it does replace or serve as a contact us form. It's going to ask for the person's name, their email address, and really what they're looking for, right? That's pretty standard of a contact form on a website at this point. But the advantage here is that it will take all the information that you would have to fill in manually anyways, and will load it directly into ConstructionOnline for you instead.
Well, and it also assures that those are not being forgotten or, again, just kind of, we'll go back to the email and look at it later. Even if you have that on your website already, it's so nice for it to go ahead and come right into the process that you're using. Now, we do also, on that note, offer an integration with Homeadvisor. So we do partner with some third parties out there. So if you guys, the line of work that you're in, you're using sites like a Homeadvisor, we actually do integrate there, and you can have leads come directly from that site into your ConstructionOnline account as well. Now, once we have leads in ConstructionOnline, our next step is really going to be to keep those leads moving forward and make sure that we're doing really an excellent job with following up with those leads, getting them information that they need in a timely manner, making sure that people don't fall through the cracks. And so there's a few ways that you can do that. One, just to cover a couple of the basics, as we do continue to speak with our leads, if we need to come back and make an update for Sarah, to me, the fastest way to do that is just right click and choose the edit option. That way, if I need to come in and maybe update her stage or add an additional detail that I found out later, I can go ahead and do that here. You also have the option to do any of that right on the page. So if I needed to come back and give her a type, I can do that, right on the lead pipeline page. So you can really come in, make some of those adjustments, and also see things very quickly, like what date the lead was opened, what stage they're in, when is their next callback scheduled to take place, who's their sales rep, what was the last time we talked to them. So as we start logging that information, you'll be able to see that. And one great thing about this section is that you really can rearrange this, so you can come into your column order section and choose what's turned on and off, or if we want to always make sure that that last callback is something that we see really as a front and center thing, then you can move that around so that now, okay, right up here at the beginning, I can see, okay, it doesn't look like this lead has been called back ever, so that's a new one. Or if you wanted to do some filtering based on the date the lead had been created, or maybe show me all the leads that, haven't been contacted within a certain date range. You're really able to do some great reporting to just kind of keep the pipeline moving from a big picture perspective. And then for individual updates, of course, as you're coming in, you can not only edit the leads, but you can do things like add call log entries to be able to document maybe phone calls or visits with someone, and add those notes in as you're going along as well.
Yeah, the call log function is a really, really useful tool to keep track of specific interactions with a client that might not warrant being added to the details page, right? This keeps the details of the lead very focused for what they need or what they're looking for, while you can kind of keep a general running tab or running history of the calls, or maybe on-site visits you might have. I know it does say a call log, but it really can be used as a great notepad to just note down, well, what actually happened when we spoke with Sarah last, right? It gives you a very specific reference point, but that does keep the details free inside of the lead to just track very, very pertinent information.
That's right. Now, you'll remember that when we set up our lead, Sarah, that we did go ahead and create a lead event. So the other tool to really keep things moving and remind you to make those updates is to go ahead and set up things like callback reminders or meetings. So you want to use that table or your lead page to be able to identify who needs your attention. You want to enter those updates and notes, and you also want to make sure to get future planned activities on the calendar. And one thing is that this really can be just callbacks. In fact, our default types are going to be lead callbacks and lead meetings, and then you can add in additional types if you need to when you're creating a new lead event. You'll notice again you have the gear, so you can come in here and customize some additional types of activities that you might do with your leads, but you're always going to have that callback available to you, because we actually present you with a callback or follow-up list on your weekly and daily calendars, just to make sure that you can quickly go through and make those phone calls, check those potential leads off there. So when we're setting up a lead event, we'll fill out the details, any notes that the sales rep would need to know, make sure of the assignment. You can, of course, color code those. And then you can also come in and add attachments or set up reminders for those to go out as well. And so that just means that I'm able to come to my lead calendar and see quickly what sales activities as a company we have scheduled, which sales reps that's going to apply to, and do some filtering here if I want to, as well as look at maybe like that week view and see things like scheduled callbacks and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, the different views are pretty useful. The month gives you context, but the weekly and the daily call views I think are much more effective for that sales representative, or really just for yourself if you're the one driving sales at your company, to know, well, what's on my list for today? What do I have coming up for the week? So you can try and stay on top of your responsibilities and your calls that you might need to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have so much flexibility. You set up this callback. It's really meant to be just a quick reminder. The callback can be used to note a specific phone meeting that you have scheduled, or it could just be like, hey, I need to schedule a callback or remind myself to call this person back on the 25th. So you just drop that in, give yourself a note as to why you wanted to call them back, and you can even, set up a reminder to just go ahead and receive an email or text when that callback rolls around. That way you're not going to forget to do it. This is again keeping it front and center for you and keeping that lead pipeline moving forward. Now, our next step is normally going to be, again, going back to the question of us going ahead and using those leads and opportunities together. Our next step is, let's say that we do a great job with our lead, Sarah here. So we'll go ahead and search for her. Really, what we want to do next is create a new opportunity for our lead. So that's going to be an option for you. For your leads to create either a project directly or a potential project or opportunity from that lead right within your ConstructionOnline. Now, here's where you can also take advantage of using any of those project templates that you may have already set up. So a lot of great things that you can do here as well.
Yeah, so we've gone ahead and set up a few different project templates. Now, these can be a huge time saver whether you're making actual projects or opportunities, because, well, when you're making an opportunity from a project template or just from a template in general, anything you've built into that template is going to carry through. So we've taken some time to set up a file and folder structure. We might have taken some time to set up a file and folder structure, but we've probably also taken some time to build out a really robust starting point for our estimate using something like an estimate template. And all of this information is going to pull together for us in the new opportunity. And what's really great about this, if you start with a template, when you carry that opportunity forward, when you win the job, the other elements that aren't really necessary or required or active inside of opportunities will also activate on the project, being converted across as well. So it can really save a ton of time. I almost always recommend that you at least take a look into the project template section just to see if it will save you some time, because, well, you'll find out it will.
Definitely so. Now, you'll notice the other thing that saves you time is, as I made the new opportunity, so right click, create opportunity for lead, it did go ahead and automatically pull in things like the address information that I had already entered. So we do try to preserve that information for you. If you need to come in, and now we're going to start tracking some of the same things for our opportunities. So we're in maybe an estimate phase here. This is going to be new business. Back to tracking those sources. So you can really, again, fill out this information, but you also can start to fill out things like the scope of work for the project. And so these are going to be options that will begin to appear on things like proposals or projects as those are moving along. And you can also choose, since I'm using a template here, which pieces of that template I want to go ahead and pull in. So it's going to pull that in for us, as well as assign things like a cost code set. So you've got some additional options, and we'll just go ahead and create that opportunity out. And that's going to show up for us within the opportunity section here. Now, you'll notice I was prompted to go ahead and jump right into the content or details for my opportunity. So I've done that. And really what I have here is the beginning of my job. I have a potential project in my opportunities list. I can see a card here with all of the details if I needed to see the details, some of that, again, higher level general information about that. But now I also will have things like a file section, so I can go ahead and create things like folders for client documents perhaps, or really whatever I want to start tracking or uploading here. We'll maybe make a picture album for site photographs. So we can really just start to build this out. And then, of course, with the opportunity, one of the things that we would normally want to do is go ahead and start building that estimate. And so you do have the full ConstructionOnline estimating available to you here. Now, this is using a template, so it's populated a sample estimate for me. So I'm going to actually delete that out so we can show you guys just how easy it is to create one from new if you needed to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we really wanted to start from complete scratch, let's say this was a unique project, we'd never really done anything like this before, we could start by creating an estimate from scratch here. I really don't want to do that though, because if you're working inside of the ConstructionOnline system, I really would like to recommend that you spend the time building out an estimate template first, one that doesn't contain actual project costs or anything like that, but one that you can use as a basis for building out an estimate in general.
Right. Well, often, it may contain things like your unit cost or some standard pricing for certain sections, and you're able to update that based on, the specific jobs. We did, by the way, have very recently an in-depth workshop on how to use estimating. So if any of you guys want some tips or some more detailed information about how to use the estimating tool, definitely check out our recorded video library. You'll have some great information available here. Now, of course, we've created the estimate using one of our templates, and our next couple of steps within this opportunity would be to fill that out. So again, update what we need to for this particular estimate, and you can definitely make some adjustments if you need to add in information or get rid of information that you don't need. Really customize what we have now in the template to this specific job. And you can also enter things like allowance amounts for your selection section. So if you needed to note some allowances, you can do that on the estimate sheet or within your client selections area. And then you can also, when you're done, of course, generate a proposal and be able to track that within the opportunity as well. So you'll have some additional functionality within those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the whole goal of using this opportunity now is to start compiling or putting together the information that you really need to take it from the stage where it's a qualified lead. They maybe have requested a proposal or an estimate or something like that from you at this stage, to take them to the point where you have closed and won the project. That's really the key, and really what you should probably be using the pipeline for inside of the opportunities section here. You've kind of passed the stage where you've determined that this person is worth your time, or this business is worth your time to start fleshing out and really working to win. And now you're using the tools specifically for that at this point.
Now you'll notice some similarities. Just like with the leads, your opportunity page is going to give you a way to quickly see your opportunity pipeline and stages, apply some filters so you can get some great on-page reporting. And you'll also be able to, of course, use your opportunities list much the same way that you would your leads list, in terms of being able to quickly update things, customize your columns, sort and move things around. So it's very similar in terms of some of those things, but just that additional functionality on the opportunity side. And then really, our last step would be, let's say that as we're going along, we present our proposal to Johnson Catering here, we go ahead and get a sign off on that. Then really our next step would be to go ahead and mark this as closed won. So you just want to go ahead and choose closed won. So it's letting us know, do we want to go ahead and convert this to a project? We'll say yes. And then the next step would be, if we want to even go ahead and invite our client as a ClientLink user to the portal, we can do that now, or we can choose to do that later. We'll just skip that step for now and come back and invite Sarah when the time's right. And so you'll notice that now Johnson Catering is going to show up under my converted projects tab as opposed to my active opportunities, and will go ahead and show up in my main projects list here on the left hand side. So we'll be seeing that in our design stage here. So it's been a very seamless process to create that lead, make the opportunity, the estimate and proposal, convert that over into a project. And really without skipping a beat, now we're ready for production. We're ready for the next stages on our job here.
Yeah, and of course, we kind of abbreviated some of the steps you would take as you were building an opportunity out, but it's really not designed to be a complicated process. Mm-hmm. It really is designed for you to gather specifically what you need to present and really win a signed contract from a client, without getting bogged down in some of the different pieces of a project build out that you might want to take care of later. But that's really where the project templates will come into play. Once you've actually converted it over to a project, you skip that stage of a project tool set or project build out that you would need to do, like building out a schedule or building out checklists for processes and things like that. Really the focus of the lead tracking and opportunities section, though, is moving forward from brand new, completely unknown, let's say, person or company to, well, here's exactly what we can do for you and for your business, and this is how much it's going to cost for that. Are you ready to sign and move forward?
Now, when you're looking at those opportunities, you can also see, which ones have a related lead. So if you're linking those together, if we wanted to create a new opportunity from scratch, if we're starting over here for some reason, you can go ahead and associate it with a lead as we're building that out. Now, I bring this up because I think it's especially useful, and I know, Jordan, you've mentioned this a couple of times to me, and I feel like we all hear it, is that really very often word of mouth is such a powerful driver of sales in this industry in particular, that it's not unusual for those referrals and repeat businesses to happen, where maybe this person was your lead 2 years ago and you circle back around and now they would like you to do an additional job. Maybe you did their office space and now they'd really love you to consider doing their brand new home that they're building, or maybe you've already done a new build for them but they want to come back and add on a new structure on the property or something like that. I mean, there's so many different scenarios where that repeat business definitely happens a good bit. So for some cases, you may not go all the way back to the lead section, but you might just come in and make a brand new opportunity, but still associate it with one of those past leads.
And you can really take it a couple of different directions, depending on the industry segment that your company works in. You could have maybe 5 or 6 clients that you work directly for. These clients, by the way, are certain businesses or business entities. In fact, I was just working with a company over the past few weeks who have a core set of businesses that they work with or work for to do different types of work. And really, whenever they have a new job prospect from this one of the companies, they just go back to the leads table and create a new opportunity from that lead, right? Their core set of leads isn't really changing as much. They're almost just using it as a tracking mechanism to find out, well, which companies are bringing us the most business? Where are we getting the most business from? Now, for other different types of industries, especially the residential segments, that's not going to be the case, I would say. You're going to have new clients probably filtering in, or new potential clients filtering in all the time, along with repeat business coming back, right? That's really the marked difference I see between a business that's been around for 5-ish years and the businesses that have been around for 20 plus years, is that after a certain point, all of their business comes from the clients they've had in the past or their referrals, whereas newer stage businesses are really trying to get to that point, right? And using the lead tracking system and really taking care of and being thoughtful in your approach to your potential clients or clients you've worked with in the past is really what takes you from that 5-year business to the 20+ year business.
Yeah, that is so true. And when you're looking at using this to help you do really a fantastic job with that type of service, it really becomes even more valuable. Now, let's say, Jordan, that we've been using this for we've got this set up. We start using it today. We've been using it for a while. Let's talk a little bit about some of the reports and information that you can pull on the page, and then some of the reports that we can run as well, and what type of information that's going to give us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the setup we talked about at the beginning, it might not be the most fun part or really the most pressing piece for people to really work through, but it really does pay dividends, like you mentioned, Holly, because it lets you do things like filter in stages, different leads to find out, well, where are they? What are they waiting for from us? And really, what do we need to do to take them to the next stage in this process, right? So you can start to use the lead stages function to really drill down and find out your action items for the specific person, right? That's really what we'd recommend that you use the lead stages for, is to filter down and find out, okay, for this type of lead in this stage, I should be doing this. And if we don't have information that we need to move them to the next stage, that's what my mission is for this stage. Now, using the lead stages in conjunction with something like the lead type filter, which is our second menu down, can be really powerful, because you might have a very similar process or stage setup, but very different types of leads. So this is really going to help you filter down and focus on the types of conversations and questions you or your sales reps should be asking about as they're working through the different lead stages and different lead types, right? The type of qualification questions you would ask a pull and deck client is going to be wildly different from the client who is looking at building a retail space. There will be some similarities, but really probably not too many.
Yeah, there might be some of just a few differences, right? And so, and the stages here will help you see that, you've got your types. You can see from the stage that really what we should be working toward maybe here is a site consult or getting them a proposal. You can see these filters beginning to be applied just based on the selections that we're making here to see things like sales rep, lead type, etc. You also have this great date filter. So if we really wanted to come in, and let's clear this out, if we wanted to come in and say, well, show me all the leads created since, January 1st through, maybe through the end of last week, we could apply that and see, okay, well, I might have 1,200 leads, but I only got 6 new ones last week. So to kind of be able to see how are we doing, or what are we getting on a weekly basis or monthly basis, and kind of use that to run some great reports and numbers. Now, if we really want to, it's great to be able to see this information here, but sometimes, you do need to maybe be able to, take that to a meeting or something like that. So you can definitely come in and head over to your, we'll just clear that out there. You can come in and head over to your report section to be able to generate some reports that do a little bit of that analysis for you. Now, you can always generate a lead summary report, which is just going to be a printed report form of all the information you have on that lead. So that's great to be able to generate. I think some of my favorite ones are this lead value by source and value by sales rep, because this allows us to see, again, how those sources or how those reps are performing.
Both on an individual level and comparatively against each other, right? So when we take the lead value by source report into consideration, what we're seeing is that we have a ton of leads, a lot of leads coming in from Dodge Data, which is not too surprising. They're a pretty big data company. Homeadvisor coming in at a solid 3rd place, whereas we're starting to generate some pretty good traction from just call-ins. To maybe our marketing efforts are working well in this case. Whatever your report might show you, if you're diligent in keeping up with your lead sources and really making sure that, 1, they're relevant to the company, and 2, that you are finding out how different potential customers heard about you, this can really start to show you, 1, how well your company's doing in terms of getting the word out about the company itself, and 2, where you might need to double your efforts, right? If a certain segment or a certain marketing activity is working well for your company in your area, well, maybe you double down on that and drop the other items that just aren't working out that well.
So for this, you can see a summary of, all your sources, and then, how many leads, but also what's their total value, what's the average value for each one of those work out to be, and what's the percentage of that in the big picture of all of your leads. Dodge Data here may be giving me 481 leads, but only 5.5% of my total pipeline value is coming as attributable to that source. So it just gives you some great information. Now, the summary's at the top, and then to see the details, you really can keep scrolling and then dive in and see every lead that falls in under each section. What's their status, what's their stage, what's the value. There's a similar report that you can look at by sales rep, which I really love. If you have more than one rep on your sales team, this is a great report, because you're able to see, first of all, if there are any that are unassigned, and kind of understand why, and maybe you want to assign some responsibility there. Even for maybe like old imported leads or something like that, they still need to be followed. So it's a great way to be able to spot that, but really to look at each of your reps and say, well, how many leads is this person working? What percentage are they winning? Again, what's their average value for the jobs or projects that they're potentially selling here? And then be able to see some more detailed information about who those leads are, what stage they're in, what kind of dollar value do we have associated. So some really great reports that you can run here. Those are my favorites. You can also really create and build your own report with the lead tracking overview.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options here, but again, this is going to depend on really defining and setting up the information and really making sure that your team is all in on the efforts to keep the lead information up to date. It really will pay off in the long run. and in the short term too, if you're actually
Yeah.
putting the effort in to start tracking this information today.
Yeah, it's a great, you get such a great short-term benefit immediately doing a better job, and then those longer-term benefits of some of that data. There are, as you can see, some similar reports for your opportunities, so we won't run one of each of those, but it's great to be able to just see the different reports that you can run and get some ideas for information that you might want to track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reports are really similar. If you learn how to use the lead tracking reports, you're also at the same time learning how the opportunity reports work as well.
That's right. Now, we are coming up on the top of the hour, and I think that covers really everything that we wanted to go over in the workshop today with you guys. That leaves us a few minutes to take some time and answer a couple of questions here before we close out. And we do have a great one coming in. Looks like someone wants to know if you can convert to a project using a template. So if you wanted to convert a lead directly to a project, maybe if you're not using the opportunities, that is possible. So same method, and you can choose a template at that point as well. So you would just new project for the lead, choose your template. So the process is going to be the same. It's really just, are we going straight from lead to project, or are we going to go from lead to opportunity and then project? But in both cases, you have those great templates available for you.
Yeah, it works really similarly. Someone else had asked, is the best way to use the lead tracking system to finish with converting to an opportunity, or really is it the best option? I feel like this answer is always such a cop-out, but it really is the truth. It depends. It really depends on the types of jobs that you're running, and it depends on what's going to be most effective for you and your team. Now, in general, my opinion, and what I've seen play out with most companies, is that it is one of the best ways of structuring it, because you're keeping information kind of segmented off and really organized and clean, right? When you're looking inside of the lead tracking, you're not really worried about if they're going to close into a project or not yet. You're really just trying to find out, well, what do we need from them to even open an opportunity for them? Because that takes time and effort. It takes a lot of time, and it really is a commitment for your company to task an estimator who's being paid by hour probably, or is on some type of salary, to put an estimate together. Like, that's serious work. Even if you're speeding up the process with an estimate template, you're still taking some time away from working on a different opportunity that might be worth more money, that might have a better likelihood of closing, or really is just all around just a better job to win. But the real answer here is it depends. You know, it could be that you have a really fast turnaround time for leads, and it doesn't make sense for you to spin out opportunities, and you really just want to track from start to finish. Well, here's what we have for you. Here's a quick proposal. And then you turn that into a job because you have maybe smaller volume projects, or they're not as difficult to estimate, or you have a really great process in place for spinning out new projects. For other companies, it absolutely makes sense for them to stage and really have their cycle designed around a lead process that flows into an opportunity that then flows into a project.
Definitely. I think it's also a great time to say, you know, as we're closing out, and that's such a great example of like, as we've gone through this today and looked at how to use these tools, if any of you guys out there feel like you would benefit from a conversation to talk about your company and your business model and how we might recommend setting some things up, or just a one-on-one webinar or training, that's what we're here for. So feel free to give us a call. I can tell you that one of the things that I always enjoy about working with the sales management tools and helping people get started with them is the flexibility. Almost any question that someone asks me, there's usually a great sort of yes answer there. So it's usually quite possible to set up whatever you need, depending on, you know, if you are chasing, or if your leads are consumers, that sometimes looks a little bit different than maybe if you are a contractor deciding which jobs to bid on. That's kind of different than having, you know, a stream of customers coming in. Sometimes that looks a little bit different from a residential or commercial perspective. Sometimes, you know, your business model, I know that some of you guys out there do things like charge for estimates. So sometimes that factors into what we would recommend, or how we might recommend that you set the pipeline up. And it's a great idea. Estimating can, you know, take some time. So depending on the type of job, if you're charging for estimates, that might look a little bit different than in your pipeline than for someone, like you said, that maybe has a quicker turnaround. So we are here and happy to talk through that with you or learn a little bit more about your business model and make some recommendations. We always love an opportunity to work with you guys one-on-one and can be reached here at 800-700-8321. Jordan and myself are both available, as are many of our colleagues. We're all happy to work with you guys.
Well, and I think that about does it, Holly. I think that this is a really great place for us to wrap up for the day. Thank you all for joining us during your lunch hours or maybe mid-morning hours, depending on where you are, or this could even be the evening in some cases for some people.
Yeah.
Either way, wherever you are in the world, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you all take care, have a great rest of your week. Take care of each other, stay safe, and we'll see you around in the next webinar.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.